was your role specifically at Hornchurch?
As an airframe rigger, my role was making sure that all the controls work perfectly. The ailerons, which will operate the elevation of the aircraft, and the rudder, the flaps, and all those extra controls work perfectly. And additionally, to make sure that the wheels and tyres were in good condition. Hornchurch was a grass runway, and they got stones and so forth there, but you had to make sure that everything was functioning without any hesitation. You had also to make sure that the other tradesmen as well worked with you. There was armourers, there were electricians and so forth. Electricians, armourers, who else was there? Wireless mechanics and so forth. And they all had to come around the aircraft while they were being serviced. Now, a rigger and an engine fitter had two specific aircraft to look after, whereas the other trades, such as the armourers and so forth, only came to service. They serviced many aircraft as a team, virtually. But we were assigned to one particular or two particular aircraft. If that aircraft went on coming back from a sortie, obviously you're waiting for your own aircraft to come back. If one didn't come back, well then you waited for news as to what had happened. Poor chappie might have been, you never knew, he just didn't return. But you never knew that instant why he didn't return, and that was a concern of us. And so if an aircraft didn't come back, spare aircraft were sent down, of course, to reimburse or refurbish the squadron, and so another aircraft would come in and you'd be allocated to that one. Every aircraft on a squadron had a squadron identification letters. Treble 2 squadron were identified by ZD, and every aircraft then had a letter A to Z, and my particular aircraft, two aircraft, were P and S. So if P went for Burton, well then something else would come and replace it, and then I had to have that other one to look after as another one.
So did you feel quite a responsibility then?
Oh, there was a terrific responsibility, because it was based on our ingenuity and our skill that those aircraft were in a fit condition to fly as a war machine. And the pilots, although the ground crew were never recognised of the responsibility that they had, but all the aircrew really relied on us to maintain the aircraft in a tip-top condition. But nobody ever recognised the fact that there were ground crew, and of course there were also, although there were no ladies or women on ground crew at that time, but there were cooks, bottle washers, and so on and so forth. All those facilities had to be built into a squadron and support the aircraft, support the flyers. Otherwise, just everything would have collapsed. And I'll just quote you what one of our pilots said at a reunion after the war. This was a flight sergeant, and I must say that the non-commissioned officers on flying sergeants and flight sergeants were much easier to get on with than the people who had been up to university and called themselves officers. There was a greater rapport between the ground crew and the NCO pilots than there certainly was with the officer pilots. And one flight sergeant, Ian Hutchinson, and Ian only died about 2 years ago, and he paid this tribute to the ground crew. The airfield was under attack, and chunks of shrapnel were raining down on the airfield. When I taxied towards dispersal, no one was to be seen. They were all in the air raid shelters taking cover. I'll talk about that in a moment. Before I rolled to a halt and cut the engine, B-Flight ground crew under their flight sergeant were swarming around my Spitfire. The Bowser was racing out to refuel the aircraft, while the armament men were loading with ammunition, were reloading the guns. The noise from the explosions going on around us was terrific, but not one of those magnificent men faltered a moment at all in their task. I was frankly relieved to be taking off again. And that was a good tribute from me. And I say he only died a couple of years ago. And that was the whole essence. There was a terrific esprit de corps. If you wanted some help from somebody else, there was not a question of, no, it's not my job, I'm not going to do it. Everybody mucked in and got the things going. And as soon as the aircraft came down from the sortie, because you really had to check up that everything was operational. The pilot would say so-and-so wasn't just right. Some things, you'd have to correct that and make sure it was right. The engine men would refill the aircraft, make sure engine oil, temperature and everything was all right. This went on for hours and hours and day in, day out. We did get breaks, of course. We didn't exactly work on a shift system, but you did get time off. But there was always a full team of men on the flight at dispersal points all day long from pre-dawn till after dusk and before a squadron was stood down.